Good afternoon, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I am Terry Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. As many of you know, Harlem Network News is a new media platform that started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. We make sure that the community is informed, bringing you news and information. I just want to share, as I know that you know, that this is a very, very critical time in history. We have the really now war, conflict going on between Palestine and Israel. Harlem Network News has been following this from the onset. Last week, we had a segment, really a roundtable, just talking about the war and the feelings of the community, because last week, really, all of our public officials, President Biden, everyone was really raising their hand strong for Israel, supporting Israel unconditionally, trying to vote and send money over to Israel. However, as the conflict continued, we were able to see that worldwide, and including in this country, everyone wasn't in agreement with that. And that is because we began to see, though we know that there was a situation where Hamas, which is based in Gaza, part of the Palestine, and they went into Israel in a border town. And we understand, initially we understood that 1,400 people were killed. And I think the number was adjusted to 1,200 people that were at a music fest. So the response from Israel was to retaliate. But to date, that retaliation is now upwards of 11,000 people. 11,000 people that are citizens in Gaza. So the situation has become very extreme. And last Saturday in Washington, D.C., there was a huge march on Washington stating free Palestine, and also calling for a ceasefire and an end to what is now being called genocide. So that's the experience we had. We were there on the ground. It was an extremely peaceful march. And really, there were 1 million people out there. And there wasn't major coverage by major media. So we are very grateful that we were there so we could bring it to you so that you could see with your own eyes. And the array of people were of every race, every creed, every color. There were children. And also on that same day, there was the Black People's March. And that is the march that this was the 15th year of that march. And that started at 11, just dealing with some of the issues African Americans are facing, Indigenous people are facing. And once again, a powerful march. That was at 11. And then this march to free Palestine, stop the genocide and ceasefire started at 1. So this is the Harlem Network News experience. And we will come back to really give you a little bit of the history and then bring you up to date in terms of what is happening on the ground now. Thank you.
This is Harlem Network News, and we're here live at the Capitol of Washington, D.C., and as you can see, the people are here. We have been rallying. We had the Back to Black movement at 11, and now we have the movement to free Palestine, stop the genocide, and the people are speaking. Public officials, you need to understand what's happening. You can no longer be silent. Oh no, it's almost silent.
For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Terry Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And today we are really speaking and educating regarding the situation in Palestine and Israel, regarding the Gaza Strip, regarding the left bank, regarding the surrounding communities and Egypt. And it's a very critical situation because we all know that on October 7th, there was an attack by Hamas of Israel. And we want to make sure that our Harlem community really understands the history and really understands what is happening. Because right now we're in a digital age, and we're in an age where things happen very quickly, and your news consists of like a 2-minute soundbite. And so it's difficult for people to really make decisions and educated decisions, or even know what's going on. And everything in the world is connected. So what is happening in Israel? What is happening in Palestine? We're all one world, and we're more connected, particularly in this digital age. So I feel it's very important that we understand, and we know that all life matters, and tragedy and loss of life, especially for innocent people, just regular everyday people, is even more of a travesty. The situation between Israel and Palestine goes back almost to biblical times. But if we want to fast forward, in 1948, that is pretty much 47 to 49 is when the state of Israel was formed. We know that there was a Holocaust in Germany, and millions of Jewish people were killed in gas chambers and all kinds of things under this regime of Adolf Hitler. When the war ended, the world decided, where can these Jewish people who have suffered from this Holocaust, where can they go? And there was a Zionist movement that was very pro-Jewish, pro-Israel, but a very hardline movement called Zionism. And they were pushing for these Jewish people to go to, quote, the homeland of the Jewish people, which is in Palestine. Also understand that at that point, Britain, the United Kingdom, basically ruled Palestine, and they released Palestine and said, okay, this is a good place for these people to go. And Europe really didn't want to house and take care of the people. The United States didn't want to do it either. So they put everybody on a boat, and they took them to what was then Palestine. People were living in Palestine. Palestine was a country, and people were displaced from their homes. And now, however many Jewish people were just dropped on this land, and there was a war, okay? And out of that war, the state of Israel was formed. And the United States became a very big supporter of Israel in finances, in arms, and in all of that. But we know that this situation to start was very contentious. I mean, it is, remembrance of what happened to the indigenous people here, where they were on their land, they were living their life, they were living their culture, and suddenly Columbus discovered them. But even worse is that they were displaced from their land. There was a scourge of their lives. They were killed. They were taken off their land. There's something called the Trail of Tears, where in the lower southern eastern region, I mean, people as late as 1940 were taken off their land, and they had to leave, and it was something called the Trail of Tears. So there's much that occurred. So think of this, and this is a similar situation in terms of what happened between 1947 and the present day. There were many wars, but that I'll leave you to reflect on, and just really go back to the fact that the people are rising up all over the world against this war, against this genocide. And each week it becomes an even more critical situation. And the United States is involved. Initially, when this happened, many of our public officials are like raising their hand. I am from Israel. The President Biden, we're for Israel. We're going to back them no matter what. We're rushing to get this through Congress, to get this, the Senate, the Congress, to assure that we can send them this $19 billion. And so that's a cause and a question, because this is what our public officials are doing, but that's not necessarily what a lot of the people are thinking should be done. And that is on two counts. One count, that there are people, particularly in the Harlem and the Harlems of the world, and the Black and brown people in this country, who are really suffering, struggling, dealing with food insecurity, gun violence, all kinds of things, homeless, drug problems. So we're saying, well, okay, with all, and in a city like New York, we have asylum seekers. So we're saying, how is it with a snap of the finger, money can go to Israel for this situation, but we cannot get the help and the change that we need here? So it's been a journey, but this is Israel, and this Palestinian situation is continually evolving and becoming even more horrific. It started with the 1,400 people that were killed by Hamas. And Hamas, for your edification and for your education, Hamas is, quote, and I say quote, a terrorist organization that came from the realms of Gaza. And it really came about because of all the inequities that have happened to people being displaced. There being a Gaza, there being a West Bank, there being an Israel in the middle. And the people of Gaza, who are Palestinian, and the people of the West Bank, who are Palestinian, are under the thumb and the regime of Israel. So out of the ranks of this being treated as secondary citizens and not being treated properly, not being able to get the jobs, so many things, not being able to fish in their own waters, Hamas came about. And, this is a history lesson because we need to know. But Yasser Arafat was the ruler, the chair of Palestine. And basically, there were a lot of negotiations that went on to try to resolve the conflict that is going on over there. And honestly, Israel decided that they didn't think they could work with Yasser Arafat. So let the truth be told, let the truth be known, that Israel actually, and Netanyahu, they actually initially funded Hamas. And that is because they wanted to undermine Yasser Arafat, and the chair of the Palestinian people, and they wanted to basically divide and conquer. You know, they represented the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and they thought if we can get Hamas in there, but they didn't know how Hamas was going to raise up. So that's a little food for thought. And I'm Terry Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, really speaking truth to power. And we basically get our source and our funding from the people. We're for the people, by the people, of the people. We encourage you to donate to Harlem Network News. You can go to our website, which is Harlem Network News. .org. You can sell us directly, Harlem Network News, and the coordinates for that are harlemnetworknews@gmail.com, or you can Cash App us. Please donate so we can continue to bring you this incredible, incredible programming. Thank you.
We're exiting the square. We're exiting Gaza Square to 14th Street. Pick up the coffins. Follow the coffins. Follow the flags. We are marching out of Gaza Square. We are marching to the White House. Are you ready to march to the White House? Are you ready? Free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine!
We're marching to the White House. Free Palestine. And we say free the Palestine of the world. Stop the genocide all over the world. Stop the genocide here. Free the people here.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine!
I'm Terry Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And we continue our report on the Palestine-Israel conflict in the Middle East. And we are dedicated to assuring that Harlem and Harlem of the world and the world are informed, and that the perspective of the Black and African and brown people, indigenous people, that our perspective is recorded, our perspective is registered in terms of the impact of world news, and that we get involved and we get engaged. It's critical, especially at this time. We as a news operation here in the village of Harlem, we cry for peace in the Middle East. We call for a ceasefire. We call for an end to the genocide. That is our cry. That is our prayer. And we represent our constituents and the people of Harlem. And we are encouraging our public officials to take note as to what is happening and to represent the constituencies that have voted for you. 80% of the people here in Harlem are for a ceasefire. And that does not mean that one is anti-Semitic. That does not mean that one is, basically supporting Hamas or any killing or any terrorists on the side of Israel, terrorists on the side of Palestine, Hamas, Hezbollah. No, the fact is we are supporting and pro-life. So it's a very, very critical situation. I can fast forward as a journalist, as a researcher, as someone who is watching all news forms, from our major media, our regular channels, our CNNs, our MSNBCs, as well as Al Jazeera, which you can find on YouTube, which is coming out of Qatar in the Middle East and reporting, and I might say doing some very balanced reporting. So it's important that we watch all of this and we understand what is happening, because obviously this directly impacts our country. It directly impacts us personally, as funds are being gone out to Israel. And we have a crisis here in this country. And we're, not getting the funding to deal with the things that we need to deal with here. That's a first and a bottom line. And secondly, all lives matter. We, as good citizens of the world, cannot stand by and watch the carnage of women and children. And, in the world of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and hurt people, this situation is not being resolved. And since October 7th, it has really gotten worse. More people have died, more children have died. The Palestinian people in Gaza don't have water, don't have food, disease is setting in. Israel has asked them to move south, but they're being bombed even as they're moving south. Hospitals are being hit, and it's hard to understand it. The UN has called for a ceasefire. They have called to allow aid to come in from all the world humanitarians, and Israel is not listening. And this is getting extremely critical, even more so for the United States, because as we fund them, we are becoming complicit in this genocide. Okay. And, 1,400 or is 1,200 lives that were lost. There are still 200 hostages, or maybe it's less, and a few hostages were released. And a few of the hostages, or some of the hostages, are actually American citizens. And I am not a war critic, or, a general or corporal or any of those things. However, just if we break it down to the common sense that our grandmothers taught us, basically, as they continue, Israel continues with the carnage, and even feeling that they've killed 11,000 people and they're trying to get Hamas. But look at the death, look at the destruction, and look at the frustration and anger that that is going to cause. And the backlash is going to be on America as well, Israel for being complicit. And, I will let you know that today, or really it's yesterday, dozens of leaders, Arab leaders, some Muslim, including Iranian President Ibrahim Razi, the Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. They all met, and the Syrian president was welcomed back into the Arab League just this year. They all attended a meeting to decide, okay, what are we going to do with the situation in the Middle East? So these are critical times, and basically, people all over the world are protesting. We had the protest last Saturday, the March on Washington, but there were other marches that were happening in New York on Thursday, the 9th. There was a march in Union Square in New York City to Fifth Avenue, and students and young people walked out of school, just to support the Palestinians and to call for a ceasefire. And when I say support the Palestinians, I don't think that a lot of the young people were taking sides, Israel, Palestine. They're just saying, stop the killing, stop the genocide. And as we're in this technical age of information, we're seeing a lot of this live. So, when people are saying, well, were the 10,000 people really killed? Their names have been submitted. And even at the March on Washington, there were protesters carrying a scroll with all the names written on them. We have a report from Doctors Without Borders. I'd like you to listen to this segment, Harlem Network News. Thank you. Shifa, Gaza's largest hospital, has been hit several times. They've been under bombardment. This is reported from Doctors Without Borders. They have hit maternity wards. This is critical, and this is real news, and this is Harlem Network News. Israel has tanks, and they're shooting and hitting hospitals, and the ICU. This is one of the surgeons from inside the hospital.
One of them have potential directly visiting, and they have orthoplegia, and the other one he has credentials in the other one. Some of the people which actually go outside the hospital, they want to go themselves, they bump them also, they bump the family. We nearly sure that we are alone now. No one hears us. But we want someone to give us a guarantee that they can evacuate the patient, because we have about 600 inpatient person who need medical care and who need evacuation.
One of the Doctors Without Borders.
When I described it as the worst humanitarian catastrophe that I had seen in my lifetime, that was almost 3 weeks ago now. We've been warning about this for weeks, and yet every day we reach a new low in an endless stream of unconscionable violence. And we've entered a very, very dark era for humanity. One of our dear colleagues there, a young surgeon, had messaged about a week ago now to say that every time she says this is more difficult and this is the worst thing that could ever happen, and it's impossible that the world will be silent to it. It will definitely get better. And I'm quoting her, "We finally reached the end. The next day comes and it proves to me that there's something even worse." And I think that's the sentiment that myself and many of the humanitarian doctors and healthcare professionals that I'm in contact with, we share that sentiment. What we're hearing from there, I think you just presented the audio message from Dr. Abid, The hospitals 2 days ago were heavily attacked. 5 hospitals were heavily attacked, including El Shifa Hospital, the largest trauma hospital, Rantisi Hospital, which is the pediatric or children's subspecialty hospital. The only psychiatric hospital in Gaza was also attacked. And some evacuated, some of the healthcare professionals evacuated to the south, and many others remained with their patients that could not physically be evacuated because they're attached to machines, because they are critically unwell, because they're not conscious enough, or are post surgery and cannot mobilize. So we know that at El Shifa Hospital at the moment there are 600 patients, 28 of them are in the intensive care unit. There are 37 newborn babies, many of them very small, weighing very little and requiring incubators to prevent them from having hypothermia. Some of them requiring oxygen and ventilator support.
Once again, one of the Doctors Without Borders is giving us a report directly from Gaza and Shifa Hospital.
Electricity to run the incubators, so all of these newborns have been moved to an area of the hospital that's not equipped to care for them. 2 of those babies have since died. One adult patient who was also on a ventilator died as a consequence of these conditions. And they informed us that snipers have targeted the hospital, have attacked 4 patients inside the hospital. Dr. Abeid mentioned one of them resulting in quadriplegia, so the patient's essentially unable to move their hands or their legs anymore as a consequence of an injury to the spinal cord. Yeah. And the people who've been trying to evacuate are directly targeted. And I want to remind everybody that those that are in the hospital have no access to food, no access to water, no electricity, and they have been begging to...
This is a crime, and the world must stand up.
For international
Listen
protection.
to the truth.
For weeks now.
I'm Terry Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And we continue with our news, information, and coverage of the Middle East situation with Palestine and Israel. And we are basically wanting to ensure that you are knowledgeable about what actually is happening, that you understand the history, that you understand that this situation didn't just happen yesterday, and it can go back to biblical times, but we really, that's not the issue here. The issue right now, right here, is the loss of life, of innocent citizens, of really war crime that is going on, and the United States funding that along with Israel. And no one is saying that the situation is not dire and critical when any life is lost. But if we're going in a sense that 1,400 lives were lost, and I think they've adjusted it as 1,200 in that initial attack in Israel. And yes, there still are hostages, but at this point, 11,000 citizens of Palestine have been killed. And we must understand that in Israel, Israel sits in the center. There's Gaza on one side. There's the left bank on the other, which is the other part of Palestine. They're completely separated. You need passes to move from one place to the other. And it's really a condition and a state of apartheid. Originally, Jerusalem, which was recently named the capital for Israel, was a place that convenes all religions, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, high holy place for all. And Israel has really taken over the area. And the state of Israel is a state, a Jewish state for Jewish people. And the language, the official language has been changed to Hebrew. So there's a lot of contention in the area, and this is not new. We are also have been focusing on, and we have an article coming out about the connection of African Americans to this whole situation. And as a peace negotiator in the Middle East, and this is FYI, this is fact, Ralph Bunche was the first African American to be awarded the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize. He received that Peace Prize for arranging a ceasefire between the Israelis and the Arabs during the war, which followed the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. So this is an old situation. Our leader, Malcolm X, made visits to the Middle East. Nelson Mandela, who at one point was called a terrorist, and the ANC, they were called terrorists, and this is when apartheid and all of that was going on. So Blacks and Africans around the world have been involved and really trying to call for peace in the Middle East. And here we are today. So, when we look at the numbers and balance, at this point, it's not like who's right, who's wrong. It's about loss of life, and it's about balance, and it's about equity, and no one being a second-class citizen, and no one living under conditions of really what is apartheid. So we've got to look at it. And, just in the last 48 hours, Shira Hospital in Gaza has been bombed. Snipers are coming into the hospital. Electricity is off. Babies are now not on incubators, and 2 of the infants have died. This is a critical situation, and this is a world situation, and we encourage the world to stand up. And Harlem Network News, we want our constituents to be informed. We basically have stated an opinion that we are for pro-life and the life of all, but it is up to the citizens to reach out to their public officials, write letters, call, flood the lines, call your senators, call your congresspeople, okay, because they are voting on this international situation. And let them know how you feel. Let your voice be heard about the issues that are happening in here. And if you agree, which I'm sure most people do not believe in killing and genocide on this mass level. These are war crimes that are going on here, and the UN, Doctors Without Borders. I mean, what else has to be said? Okay, right to the president, right to Vice President Kamala Harris. This is a time where we've got to, put our democracy into action and make it for real. We're not just doing lip service. So that's the message. And we continue to ask you to do your own research, and you can. Okay, in this age, this digital age, information is at your fingertips. So make your own assessment and fact check. When you hear debates, or when you hear, anybody from the president to your congressperson, to what you're seeing on mainstream TV, fact check it, because you can. Don't just go by the loudest soundbite you hear and then you believe it because it was said. It's a very, very critical time. And we all have the responsibility to make a difference in this world. I'm Terry Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. Please continue to reach out to us, to support us, to donate to us. If you have news and information, bring it to us. You can reach us at 646-261-5397, Harlem Network News at gmail.com. You can donate by going to harlemnetworknews.org, or you can also go to Zelle. Our coordinates are Harlem Network News at gmail.com. You can go to Cash App, every which way, but we need your donations. No matter how small or how large, you make a difference and allow us to continue to be that voice and the drumbeat of Harlem. We are for the people, of the people, and by the people. Stand firm. Power to the people. Thank you.
This is in the name of God. This is in the name of the people. This is in the name of the real people. And the line continues. The line continues. The line continues. And it is about peace. It is about life. All Palestinians be returned to Palestine in sovereignty. The children are here. Yes, it's about life. It's about life. This is a touching moment. We love you. My God. What a powerful moment. Yes! 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 Power to the people! Yes! 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 Out of the mouths of babes!
Free Palestine! 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 May God protect you! We love you!